Hello and welcome to this first video looking back at the 20 years that Arion Games has been in existence. Arion Games started on the 7th of July 2005. Well, at least that was the date we released our first product. Obviously, some work went in before that and the idea was there before that. But 7th of July 2005 saw the first released Arion Games product. And it was a set of paper miniatures. Created with 3D graphics software, quite revolutionary at the time, quite interesting at the time. It was done really because I thought, why not? I could create these. RPG now, as it was then, one of the precursors of drive-through RPG was quite new on the scene, and I thought, well, I can make these PDFs, I can sell them, and that was the beginnings of Arion Games. Now, at the moment, we have something like 500 products listed on Drive-Thru RPG. We've had something like 30,000 customers over the 20 years, and we've sold more than 203,000 individual products, which is all fantastic. But obviously, to begin with, it wasn't like that. And I've been looking at some of the figures from back then. That first month, between 7th of July and the end of the month, we sold 20 sets of paper miniatures. By the end of the month, we had 4 released. So obviously back then I was going quite hard at these, one a week. And we sold 20 of the sets, and I made, after deductions, $37, about £20, £25. And I remember thinking at the time I was absolutely over the moon, because here I'd made £20 of beer money. That paid for a night out. And obviously, back then, a pint of beer was considerably less than it is now. But I was over the moon. I had created something that other people were buying and that other people were enjoying, using in their games. And I think more than the £20 that I made, it was that buzz of other people using my products in their games and other people getting enjoyment out of my products. And so I carried on. I produced another 4 sets in August, another one a week. And in August, I made $51 with 22 sales. And I thought, oh, things are really growing. September, I was up to 10 sets, 47 sales, $106 during September. So things were beginning to grow. And whereas initially I'm thinking, oh, £25, if I make that each month, that would be nice. By the time you're then making £70, £80 in a month, you're beginning to think, hang on a minute, this could actually be a proper business. And by the time you get to the end of December 2005, in December I made $210, so £160, £180, something like that. I made 100 sales nearly in December, and I had 20 sets on the market. So things were taking off quite well. Actually, I ended up producing 236 sets of paper miniatures. More of that in a moment. And paper miniatures continue to be the main product, well, really the only product for Arion Games for quite a while. In fact, until about the end of December 2007. So we're talking 2.5 years. And by the time we got there, I had sold over 6,000 individual products in those 2.5 years. I had 67 sets on the market, and I'd made about $11,000, which obviously that's over 2.5 years, but it's still quite a considerable sum. And I think what it did was it showed that actually there was a market for these products. And although I don't really produce any paper miniatures anymore, I haven't done for probably a couple of years, the time required to produce them compared to the sales that each set would make, didn't really become a great use of my time as I became busier and busier. But I did end up with 236 sets, so still pretty much half my catalogue is paper miniatures, possibly even a bit more than half. But then when we get to early January 2008, something changed. Because in 2007, I'd got in touch with Puffin Books about the Maelstrom RPG. So this had been published by Puffin many, many, many years earlier, 1984, I think it was. And it sold, I'm told, 85,000 copies, something like that, which is a huge number of copies for an RPG. But it sold that because it looked like a fighting fantasy game book, had the same trade dress, and it even had a choose your own adventure section in it. And so it went on the shelves next to fighting fantasy game books. Lots of people bought it. But Puffin never really did anything with it. They released Maelstrom, they stepped back from it and went, nah, nothing else. The author, Alex, went to he was a schoolboy at the time he wrote it, so he went to university, did a PhD, and is now an incredibly successful professor. So 2007, I found my old copy of this, looked at it and thought, you know what, I'm publishing digital products. Why not see if I can publish a digital version of Maelstrom, bring it back to the modern gamer? Because although there are plenty of secondhand copies still extant out there, having a PDF copy would be fantastic. So I got onto Puffin, I badgered them, and nothing really happened for most of that year. However, I was in touch with the author, Alex, and towards the end of 2007, the rights were then returned to him for the book from Puffin. And he said, right, let's do this. Let's re-release it. So I've got the rights to a digital copy. And January 2008, Maelstrom was released. And that marked the first big turning point in Arion Games, because I went from producing role-playing games accessories, paper miniatures, to publishing role-playing games, full stop. And that was a huge moment. More on that next time. Thank you very much. And I hope you're enjoying the sale we have at the moment, where everything is 40% off, and then each weekend a free gift gets sent to everyone who's bought something during that week. Thank you very much. Until next time.